Hey guys, it's Megan Ely here with OFD Consulting, and I'll be coming your way for the business of Wedding Ireland in just a few short weeks. So today I wanted to do a brief video blog about media lists. We're going to be talking about being your own wedding publicist, and in order to do that, you need to know who you are sending your submissions and media pitches to. So there are several steps I want to go over that will help you create your own media list in the end. So first of all, you're going to want to do a bit of research. The fact of the matter is, if you want to put a media list together of all the wedding blogs and all the magazines out there, that is an incredibly intimidating endeavor, and more than likely, most people would not finish that. So I say go ahead, take some time, start thinking about the ones that you really want to target. Really get to know the magazines and blogs that might be a good fit for your brand. Perhaps it'll be based on region a little bit, and also the audience that you want to try and go after a little bit further. So really narrow down the list and ask yourself, who are the folks that you really want to connect with in the next year or two? And then from there, you need to ask yourself what information you want to capture. And everyone's going to be a little bit different. I'm happy to share a little bit about what I look for. Of course, I'm going to list the name of the blog and or magazine. Sometimes a magazine might have an online component, so you treat that as both. And if there's a URL associated with it, I'm always going to want to find a contact, first and last name preferably, but at least the first name, and then their contact information, email at least. That would be very important. For the magazines, you'll want to go ahead and get potentially a mailing address too. For myself, I do like to get the submission guidelines, especially if I'm focused on real weddings. So I'll want to know what kind of images they prefer, how many, in what format, what kind of supplemental information they're looking for, etc., etc. I do a lot through 2 Bright Lights as well, and if you do not know 2 Bright Lights, you'll be learning a bit more about it from me at the actual workshop, but 2brightlights.com is where you want to go to learn more. But because I submit a lot of real weddings through that, I do have a column dedicated to whether or not they accept real weddings that way, which is always a preference of mine to make things a little bit easier. So in addition to that, I also want to know, especially for the magazines, what their editorial deadlines historically are. Now, you may not know what the deadlines are for fall of 2013, but if, for example, the Knot is accepting, weddings through November 1st this year, you can be sure that it will be something similar next year, give or take maybe 30 or so days. Finally, you want to go ahead, before you actually gather the information, and decide how you want to gather the information, in what format. I'm an Excel spreadsheet girl. I find it very easy to find information that way. For myself, some people prefer Word docs. Some people prefer Google Docs. It's really up to you on the best way to be able to keep organized. But for myself, I would say Excel spreadsheets tend to work best for me. And then finally, the question is, how do you get this information? And the good news is most blogs will have a submissions guideline area. So whether you're doing a media pitch or a real wedding submission of some sort, they will normally give you at least an email address. You may have to do a little bit of digging to find the actual person. Oftentimes they'll name the editor in some sort of About Us section of the blog, which is where I get it. And then the question is, how do you get that for magazines? And what's funny is most people don't realize it's actually very easy to get the contact for that. So here's an example. This is Grace Ormond, which is a gorgeous magazine. And there's something in most magazines called a masthead. And the masthead's just a few pages in. And so you can see here, on here, that they have the masthead for Grace Ormond. It lists the editor-in-chief, it lists art directors, graphic designers, managing editor, and it goes on and so forth. So if you can't find it online, often the masthead of the magazine will have it. And the great news is, at the very bottom, if you can see it there, they give you a mailing address, they give you fax, telephone number, and email. So everything is just right at your fingertips, whether you realized it or not. So good news is it's not terribly difficult to get that sort of information. Now, if any of the information cannot be found in any of these areas, but maybe you can get an email, it doesn't hurt to ask. Write them. The worst thing can do is ignore you, and then you move on. If you do use 2 Bright Lights, oftentimes under the information section of it, they will give you some of the contacts as well, which is a super big help. So anyways, so this is Megan Ely with OFD Consulting, talking today a little bit about gathering your own media list, and I look forward to seeing you guys in just a few short weeks.